This man was born in 1809. At 1816, his family was forced out of their home, and he needed to work to support his family. 2 years later, his mother died. 10 years later, his sister died. 3 years later, a business that he started failed. A year after that, this man ran for state legislator and lost. In the same year, he also lost his job. He decided that he wanted to go to law school, but he couldn't get in. A year later, he borrowed money from a friend to start a business. By the end of that year, he was bankrupt. The next year, he ran for state legislator again. This time, he won. A year later, he got engaged to be married. However, that year his fiancée died and he was grief-stricken. The next year he had a total nervous breakdown and for 6 months was bedridden. That same year he decided he wanted to become Speaker of the state, but he lost that. A few years later he wanted to become elector, but again he was defeated. 2 years later, he marries a lady. They have 4 boys, but only one would live to maturity. He lost 3 of his 4 kids, guys. The next year, he ran for Congress, and he lost. Notice that he never gives up. A couple years later, he runs for Congress again. He won and moved to Washington. A couple years later, he ran for re-election to Congress, and he lost. The next year, he tried to get a job in this important role. He didn't get the job. The next year, his son, his only son, dies. He's now lost 4 of his 4 sons. A couple years later, he ran for Senate of the United States and he lost. A couple years later, after that, he sought the vice presidency nomination at the convention. He got less than 100 votes. A couple years later, he ran for Senate again, and he lost again. Notice, he doesn't give up. It's kind of weird. He keeps losing. Life keeps beating him down, but he somehow keeps going through all this bullshit, all this struggle. 2 years after he lost, Abraham Lincoln is elected President of the United States. I want you to just take in his story. All these bad things keep happening, but notice the trend. He kept going for what he wanted, year after year, decade after decade, and eventually became President of the United States. Now I got another story for you, another true story for you. There's this man at age 5, his dad died. At age 16, he quit school, dropped out of school. At age 17, he had lost 4 jobs. At age 18, he got married. The next year, he had a daughter. And the year after that, his wife left him and took their child. At age 26, he got fired. He started to get fed up in life, so he ended up settling after giving up on life at a job at a restaurant and retired at age 65. At age 65, he got a check, his first check, I believe it was Social Security, it was like $105. Depressed, realizing he wasted all of his life, he took a shotgun to the end of where he lived with a piece of paper and began to write out his will. Instead of writing out his will, he wrote down everything he wished he would have done. He wished he would have done this, he wished he could have done this, he wished he did this. This man at age 65, who got a check for $105, said, you know what, hold on now, wait just a minute, I'm young. At age 65, he tells himself this. Instead of me just wishing I could do all this stuff, why don't I just go do it? So he realized he was good at doing something that nobody else was. He had a chicken recipe that he thought could be fantastic. So he started going door to door trying to sell his chicken recipe, getting rejected over and over and over again. Finally, he had his breakthrough. And at age 88, Colonel Sanders had created KFC, which was a multi-billion-dollar business with a B. This was back, by the way, when $1 billion was a lot more money than $1 billion is worth today. Notice his story. Shit kept happening in life. Bad things kept happening. It kept pursuing. And understand the underlying message. Don't just see the big picture. Understand what happened. That all these life events eventually led up to him producing this multi-billion-dollar-a-year business. Understand the same lessons from the Abraham Lincoln story. Got another story for you guys. At age 17, this lady was rejected from college. At age 25, her mom died. At age 26, she had a miscarriage. At age 27, she was married. She was married, but her husband abused her. They had a daughter. And the next year, she got divorced and was diagnosed with severe depression. The next year, she was a single mother living on welfare. The next year after that, at age 30, this lady with a daughter living on welfare, depressed and broke, is thinking about committing suicide. Instead of committing suicide, though, she decided to direct her passion to doing what she loved, writing. The next year, she published her first book. Understand, though, that this wasn't a big hit or anything. She published a book at age 31. 4 years later, she released 4 books and was named Author of the Year. This was at age 35. At age 42, she sold 11 million copies of a book the day it was released. This lady is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. Her net worth is around $1 billion today. What you need to understand is that massively rich, successful people don't have problems. They don't have bullshit. They don't have struggle. Every single person struggles in life. Every single person has problems. However, they know and understand one key. They have a mindset. They have a belief. What is that mindset? All news is good news. All news is good news. All news is good news. All massively wealthy, successful people have a belief, have an idea inside their brain that all news is good news. Regardless of what happens, all news is good news. I've had this happen in my life in the beginning. I started lots of businesses and they all failed. But I kept going. I didn't give up. And I learned little lessons from each business. And if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have discovered a lot of the things I discover now. One of the businesses I started, I put 30 grand into. This business failed. But one of the things that happened with the process of starting that business was that it helped me develop an internal, everlasting motivation for wanting to be successful. A lot of people struggle to have motivation. I put my heart and soul into this and got a taste of success, and this business failed. And that created a burning desire in me that arguably I wouldn't be where I am today, being massively successful, if that wouldn't have happened. Now, going through the problem, when it happened, it fucking sucked. I was like depressed, like I didn't know what to do, like I had dealing with lawyers and all kinds of bullshit. I'm losing all this money. It fucking sucks as you're going through it. But a lot of times that leads you to where you are today. I've had this with girls I've dated. I'll date a girl and I'll think she's the love of my life, and then something happens and we break up. And I'm telling you, I always end up dating a better girl. I had a girlfriend and we broke up and I'm like, man, this sucks. Then I had another girlfriend, all right? This girl was hotter, okay? This girl the sex was better with this girl too. And so I'm like all in love with her because this is like the third girl I've had sex with, right? So like I didn't have any, so like I have all these great feelings associated with her because, you know, sex feels good and I'm all linked to her, right? We break up. So I'm crying. I'm like dead. Like I cry for like 2 weeks straight. I literally think I'm never going to stop crying. I get over it, right? I move on. And then the next girl I ended up going out with was hotter than her, had a better personality than her, and was actually better in bed than her too. All right, not that that's everything that's important, but hey, if you can find that the next person is hotter, so they're more physically attractive, if you're more attracted to their personality, if they have more drive in life, that's kind of a win. All news is good news. Now here's the problem: if you don't develop this mindset for yourself, you never really get going. You never really get any momentum going. If you have this mindset, when you believe, regardless of what happens to you, guys, look at me. I'm telling you, bad shit's gonna happen. Shit's going to happen. I'm telling you, you're going to have roadblocks. Life's going to throw you curveballs. One of the ways that you know you're living is that you have problems. I forget if Tony Robbins said that or who said that. Somebody said that. You will have problems. You have problems now. What you need to understand, though, is all news is good news. And I have friends that make a crap ton of money, like people that I know that just create avalanches of abundance and a shit ton of money in their life. They firmly believe this. Like something dramatically bad will happen in their business, and like within minutes, hours, or days at the longest, they're out of it. What happens to poor middle class people is something bad happens to them, and they take the victim mindset. Why did this happen to me? Nothing goes my way. My day is, my day was going good. I just can't have a good day. And they develop this victim mindset, and something it won't even be that big of a deal. Sometimes it's a little thing, and that gets them depressed, or that makes them stop. They stop taking action. They stop moving forward. And poor middle class people, you will notice it will take weeks, months, years, or sometimes they will never recover. So everybody has problems that happen to them. The unsuccessful person has a problem that happens to them. They think their life is over. They get emotional in it without stating the facts. You want to start stating facts. All right. You don't want to create a big story. You want to just start telling yourself, all right, these are the facts that happened. What can you do now to get over that? But the poor person, is this the poor person? They say, we're going to say this is the poor middle class person mindset. Something bad happens to them. They fall down. Why did this happen to me? This sucks. It wasn't meant to be. They give up. Or it takes them years to recover before they try again. The successful person says something happens to them, and they either do some reframing. You guys know about reframing. They do some reframing so you can start to control this process. If you were the negative person before, you can start to take control of your thoughts now by reframing, by doing self-talk, right? By doing affirmations, right? By writing down your goals, right? I'm not just telling you what to do. I've shown you how to do it so you can start doing this too. I want you to start doing this. I don't just want you to understand this concept and go all woo and feel good about it. I want you to actually have the tools and the techniques and the strategies to do it. That's, what I want you to get out of it. So you do some reframing, and then whichever one you were, but then whichever one you were, guys, you bounce back up. So maybe before something happened and you were down for a little bit, but now something happens, you remember this talk we're having right now, you do some reframing, and boom, you're back up on it. All right? Successful people, they come back very quickly. I mean, very quickly. There's going to be something bad that happens to them, and it's very bad, but they bounce back quickly. That's just what they do. They're very resilient. They just can't get held down. I had a mentor of mine. One of my main mentors, he had a divorce. And besides from the, all the emotional shit that happens with the divorce, the realization that half your money's gone, because, I guess he didn't have a prenup, he was in a funk. Guys, he was in a funk for a few days. He bounced back from it. He was a little grumpy for a few days. He was a little grouchy. He bounced back from it. He came up from it. What would the average person do? They could be in the funk for the rest of their life. They could never come out of it. Everybody has shit that happens to them. The difference between the successful person and the poor person is the successful person realizes bad shit happens to everybody. And the successful person bounces back quickly. The other people, they have the victim mindset. Why does everything happen to me? My life just isn't fair. Why can't I just get this? And then they retreat. They stop taking action. They go into retreat, and then sometimes they recover and they try again. But if they do recover, it could be months or years later, something else is going to happen. They go back down. They never get the momentum. We know that you have to get momentum to be successful. The penny that doubles every day for 30 days. Remember that? You need to start to build the momentum. You can't create the momentum in your life you need to be massively successful if whenever you have a roadblock, you bump down and then you retreat and you become a victim and you don't do anything for weeks or months or years. You need to very quickly, in hours or days, bounce back up. Something bad happens to you, you bounce back up quickly, as fast as you can. Remember, Just because something bad happens to you, if you start to feel bad about it, that's not going to change anything. If something bad or negative happens to you, which it will, it's going to happen to you. If you play the victim mindset and you start to create that negative energy, not only does that slow you down, but that stops you from finding solutions. When something bad happens to me, guys, bad shit happens to me all the time. When something bad happens to me, I become real centered and real relaxed. I get as much of the emotion as I can out of myself by reframing it. I say, all right, let's think about this. This happened. It fucking sucked. But I will find a way around it. This has probably happened to other people before, and they found a way around it. If they can find a way around it, I can find a way around it. I'm resourceful. I've been through lots of self-improvement. I've overcame struggles in the past. I can figure out a way around this, and it's not going to affect my business that quickly. I say that to myself, and boom, I bounce back. So now I can start to continue to get the momentum. You guys see how powerful this is? Remember, all news is good news. I have something written on my wall over there. It says all news is good news. I see it. I also have something else written on there that says nobody cares about my problems or reasons why I don't have the things that I want in my life but me. And if I die not making the money that I want, not having the freedom that I want, and not having the experiences I want, nobody will care. That's kind of harsh. I want to read it to you again. Nobody cares about my problems or reasons why I don't have the things that I want in my life but me. And if I die not making the money that I want, not having the freedom that I want, and not having the experiences that I want, nobody will care. You want to know why I read that? Because bad shit happens to me, guys. And sometimes as soon as I get in the mental funk, I will read that, and that reprograms my mind. A lot of people, they think they have an underlying belief they don't even know they have, that if something bad happens to them and they feel pain, somehow that pain justifies them for that somebody will magically come into their life and fix it. A lot of people have this belief they don't even know they have, that if something bad happens to them and they get pain, somehow by feeling the pain, that justifies that somehow somebody will magically come in and take the pain away. I know a lot of people that have this with relationships. They're not in the relationship they want, or they're wanting a relationship, and they feel that if they just get a bunch of pain and agony and stress and heartache, somehow that equates to them eventually the knight in shining armor showing up at their house and saying something along the lines of, look, you've been struggling enough. I'm here to take the pain away from you and to be in a relationship with you, and I'm perfect. A lot of people have that belief way, way, way deep down inside. I'm here to tell you guys, no one's going to show up at your house. No one's going to show up at your house and fix all your problems. No one's going to show up at your house and make you happy. No one's going to show up at your house to create your life for you. You need to do that for you. And because everybody else is focused on their own problems, because everybody else has their own things they're doing in their own path, nobody really cares that much about your problems. They're focused on their own problems. When I say that to myself, guys, it helps me get out of my head and say, wow, I'm right. I mean, I wrote that from scratch. I didn't even get that from a book. Some of the things I get from books, some of the things now I can come up with on my own, because I've been listening to 2 to 3 hours of self-improvement a day for the last 10 plus years, so I kind of start to think like these people, so I can kind of create stuff now. But I see that, and it kind of takes me out of my head. I'm like, man, I'm right. And it kind of keeps me back on track, because I would have it too. I would think, man, if I get in the funk, somehow, magically, that means someone's going to fix it. Guys, someone's not going to fix it. Aaron Goldstein, I love you guys. I want you to be successful. That's why I'm so passionate about teaching you guys this, and that's why I've structured the 51 Pillars of Wealth in the way it is. Even me, guys, even though I love you, unless, you've hired me to be your mentor and we're working one-on-one, or maybe you've hired one of my coaches, right? I'm not going to go through the computer and shake you and say, hey, look, motherfucker, you got to get your shit together, all right? That's not going to happen. You have to do it for you. You have to do it for you. So what you want to do is remember, all news is good news. Regardless of what happens, shit's going to happen. And as you start to be successful, more shit's going to happen. Everybody has shit. It's just how you deal with the shit. All news is good news, and whenever you get in a funk, remember a couple things. Do the stop thing, and then say a positive affirmation, and then maybe writing that saying on your wall will help you too, because it will get you out of your head. It will get you out of those emotions we as a society have been conditioned to feel. It's not really your fault you feel that way, that you have this victim mindset. That's how 99% of the world operates. So just being around people, friends, family, TV, teachers, we develop that. But just because you have that victim mindset, that a lot of people have that victim mindset inside yourself, does not mean it's right. It does not serve you, it hurts you. Because when you go into that victim mindset, that stops you from being able to solve problems. When I have a problem, I stop, I get all the emotion out of me very quickly, and then once that happens, I can now think logically, and I can logically and strategically put an actionable game plan together that has a very good chance of working, of fixing the problem, because I'm not reacting from an emotional negative state. I am putting a plan together from a logical place. And you want to, if it's business, you want to act logical. You don't want to have too many emotions in it, because you want to be able to see things clearly. And you do that by, when you go into a funk, when something bad happens to you, snapping out of it, getting all the emotions out of it, moving forward, and then putting a game plan together that's based on logic, and instead of falling into a slump of negativity where you have a victim mindset. My name is Aaron Goldstein. If you got value from this video, go to the Facebook group and just type "all news is good news" with an exclamation mark, whatever the thing is. You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I can't say it. And then, guys, I want you to do this, because I appreciate your feedback in the 51 Pillars of Wealth private Facebook group that only you and other members have access to, that have joined this community. Write "all news is good news" with an exclamation mark. And then I want you to tell me the number one lesson you got out of this video. I will be watching for that, and I will see you in the Facebook group.